Factors on top of the high price of an electric vehicle, now making some drivers second guess the decision to go electric. Some dealership owners now scrambling to get electric vehicles off the lots. One of them speaking with us today. Tom Maoli is the president and CEO of Celebrity Motor Cars. Stephen Bradbury is the former acting Secretary of Transportation. Gentlemen, welcome, and thanks so much for coming on. You know, we've seen this trend with people going electric when it comes to their vehicles here. Tom, can you describe what you've noticed and maybe the challenges you faced of getting some EVs sold?
Yeah, great to see you. You know, listen, it's an interesting dynamic because the government is pushing this 2035 mandate, but it's unachievable. And, you know, Tesla took off like a rocket ship, but if you peel back the earnings in Tesla, all of their growth is overseas. The U.S. economy is not ready for this. The infrastructure is not in place, and, you know, the consumer's not buying into it. We have electric vehicles piling up on the lots. We can't get rid of them. And consumers are walking in. It's $10,000 to $15,000 more to buy an electric vehicle. You see what Ford did yesterday. They dropped their price by $10,000 on the F-150 Lightning. And that is not because they're trying to compete with Tesla. That's because they can't move these vehicles. Nobody wants them. And, you know, when the consumer's not buying them, we have a big problem because the manufacturers have spent billions of dollars to gear up for this government mandate, or it's actually not even a government mandate, it's an EPA mandate that is unachievable. There's no infrastructure out there. There's no charging stations. And, you know, I was just in Washington 2 weeks ago talking to some congressmen and senators. And, you know, the real big issue is that 90% of the minerals come from China to build these batteries. So we haven't even solved the chip problem. And now we're going to give our transportation system over to China. I would love to hear what the transportation secretary has to say about that.
Well, let me pose that one to Stephen Bradbury there. Answering that question and thinking about not only what Tom pointed to, but also the electric grid and the country being ready, the infrastructure being ready for something like this, and throwing out a date saying 2035, and here it is, and you know, no more gasoline vehicles. We're going all electric, and this is the date by completion. Mr. Secretary, how feasible is that?
Well, it's not feasible. It's not feasible at all. I think the Biden administration's industrial plans, central planning for our industrial base in this country is on a collision course with reality. Yes. And it's really rather unsettling. Through environmental regulation, they're trying to force the auto industry to transition in a more accelerated way to electric vehicles than market demand would support. And with the huge subsidies provided through the Inflation Reduction Act last year, which I think is really more properly called the Green Dream Giveaway Act, huge subsidies, they're trying to buy consumer demand. You know, that's the problem we have. You know, I'm not opposed to new technology, and in these electric vehicle technologies are exciting, and they're the right choice for some consumers. Increasingly, it's wealthier consumers, and these are second cars. These are their commuting vehicles. These are not their first choice for the family's needs. So American families are looking at these options, and right now, the demand is very soft. I mean, these vehicles are expensive, on average more than 24% more expensive than comparable internal combustion engine vehicles, and they have real limitations that are giving consumers, American families, real pause. Where will they be able to charge them? How long will the charge last? If you tow a heavy load, the charge and the range goes down considerably. If you live in a cold climate, this may not be a good choice for you. And the lack of charging stations is a real concern. I think people are reading about how Governor Gavin Newsom in California is rationing access to charging. What time of day, how long can you charge your vehicle? That kind of dependence on government control of the cord that you will be tethered to, I don't think that's really consistent with the way Americans view the automobile. I think a full tank of gas in your car in the garage, that gives you a feeling of freedom and independence. Sure. And I think people are very skeptical they'll have that same freedom and independence with electric vehicles. So they're not jumping on the bandwagon. And meanwhile, the companies are trying to do what they've committed to the Biden White House they will do, which is build more and more, invest in new plants to build these vehicles. And the problem is, it's not always the case that if you build it, they will come. We're heading to a collision course here. And I think it's very concerning.
Those are some really interesting facts to consider when you are making a decision of which car is going to be right for you and your family. Tom Maoli and Stephen Bradbury, gentlemen, thank you. We appreciate your insight.